presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Live from the confluence as these rivers meet to join the Ohio, Fox Sports Ohio brings you Cincinnati Reds baseball. Tonight, it's the Reds against the Pittsburgh Pirates from PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Usually when these two teams get together, something's on the line. Usually when these two teams get together, the wild card race is on the line. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's still on the line. The San Francisco Giants have a wild card spot. So do the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Pirates fighting to stay alive 4.5 games back as they begin a 4-game set against the Reds. Hi, hello, and welcome to PNC Park, everybody. Along with the Cowboy, Jeff Brantley, and Jim Day, I'm George Grand. Usually when these two teams get together, there is something on the line. For the Reds, no playoff hopes. For the Pirates, this is a key series.
It is, George, and I think there's something on the line for the Reds. I mean, they've lost 8 out of their last 10 ball games. I mean, they've got to figure out a way to finish September strong. They really came out of the All-Star break playing well. But here lately, it's gone the other way, and you don't want to finish the season like that. One guy that's not only played well, but has been the leader of this Reds pitching staff all year long is Dan Straley. He gets a ball tonight. He does, George, and it's probably a good thing. He's been the one guy I think that the Reds could count on the entire year, and he's been able to do it by changing speeds. When you watch Dan Straley on the mound, he's not going to overpower you with a fastball, even though he will throw the fastball by you because it's well located. He's got an outstanding slider. That is going to be his go-to pitch a lot of times against right-handers. But he's also got that devastating changeup. He'll throw it at any time to any batter anywhere. Straley's pitched well for the Reds, and a guy who made his first start as a Pittsburgh Pirate coming over from the Yankees is Ivan Nova. He'll face the Reds again. Yeah, he's been awfully good, George. I mean, you look at his Yankees numbers, and now you switch back and look at what he's done with the Pirates. I mean, 4-0. He's only walked a couple of batters in those starts, 28 strikeouts. I mean, those are pretty good numbers. He does it with that power sinker inside and then the breaking ball in the dirt. He makes you speed up with that fastball on your hand. So Nova's trying to get a contract for next year and make an impression on his Pirate teammates. One guy who's made certainly an impression on his Reds teammates is Jose Peraza. Coming up next, JD will have his story on Fox Sports Ohio.
chili, feeling good. It's Skyline time. Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by Skyline Chili. Feeling good, it's Skyline time. I'm Jim Day. You know when you're a young player and you come up to the big club, if you are in this, oh, Brandon Phillips, how you doing? You're killing me. You want to do an interview?
Go ahead, you got it.
Oh, we're on live TV.
What's up, live TV? What's up, this Reds baseball, baby?
All right, there you go. Brandon Phillips, goodness gracious. All right, the story I was trying to do was on Jose Peraza. Let's take it right to the video, shall we? Peraza 4 for 5 yesterday, a couple of doubles, 2 RBIs. And since August 20th, he has the best average in all of Major League Baseball, a 484 average. He has been quite impressive. And what I was trying to say, if you're in the sentence of this kid hits so good, you got to find a position for him to play, well, that's pretty good stuff. And he's also the focus of our IGS Bringing the Energy. Reds 4-hit games this season. He has now matched Joey Votto's 3 4-hit games. Keep in mind, this will be the 135th game tonight for Joey Votto, just the 51st for Jose Peraza, and the goofy Brandon Phillips also has one as well. He's about to step into the box as we go upstairs to George Grant and the Cowboy Jeff Brandon.
Thank you, JD. Looks like you're in for it in this dugout tonight next to Brandon. Good luck, buddy. Let's check the starting lineup for the Reds as they come in overall on the season. The Reds 57 and 81, trying to derail the Buccos in this 4-game set. Peraza will be in the leadoff spot overall at 347. Banked off this last strong month. Cozart, Votto at the first 3. Duval, Phillips, Shebler, Suarez, Barnhart, and Straley still looking for his first hit. Bats in the number 9 position. On the mound for the Buccos, here's Ivan Nova, Cowboy.
Nova is going to stay on the inside part of the plate the majority of the time to the Reds' right-handed batters. Matter of fact, even with a lefty up there, he's going to continue to throw to that side of the plate. That's his strength. It sinks and it's hard.
And that's what the Yankees saw in him as they signed him as an undrafted free agent. Spent 8 years with the Yankees. There was a point in time where it looked like he would be one of the locked-in starters for the Yankees for many years.
Yeah, I think there was, I don't know that it was an attitude, but there was something about the way that he was pitching that didn't quite work for the Yankees.
Peraza bang one's down to short. Mercer takes care of it. He's good at doing that, and there's one away. So Peraza retired, and you heard JD tell his story. Jose has been outstanding of late. That 484 average since the 3rd week of August against Nova. He's facing him for the first time. He was not with the Reds when the Reds faced Nova when he made his first appearance as a Pittsburgh Pirate. That was the 1st week of August. He pitched against Homer Bailey, went 7 innings, allowed 3 earned runs. Here's Cozart. He has faced Nova before, 1 for 3 in his career. All told, Zach is at 255. The new career high, 16 homers and 48 knocked in.
There were a few times in that original ball game that Nova pitched against the Reds, George, where he was flat out overpowering. I mean, he'd sink the ball down and in, and when he missed up, the Reds were having a tough time catching up to him.
I mean, he's teased fans and his teammates for many years. There are games where he'd have 10+ strikeouts. In fact, his career high in strikeouts was 12. That was against the Reds years ago as a Yankee. And then there are other times where he'll give up 3 or 4 walks and 6 or 7 hits and be out of there in the 4th inning.
And I imagine if the Yankees are trading an arm like this, they just did not foresee him being able to pitch like he's pitched in a Pirate uniform.
That's a call, strike 3, says Paul Nauert, the home plate umpire. 2 away as Cozart's retired. Here comes Joey Votto. Let's check your forward defensive alignment for the Buccos. In the outfield, Starling Marte is out tonight, still back spasm, so Polanco moves from right to left. McCutcheon's in center. Josh Bell is in right. Gong is back in the lineup after a series of injuries, beginning with the knee injury last year. Mercer's the number 2 defensive shortstop in the league. Harrison, the Cincinnati product, at second, and David Freese is now ensconced at first base with Cervelli behind the plate. Here's Joey at 312, 22 homers and 80 knocked in. In his career, 2 for 8 and a homer against Nova. This one skied to the left side. Long run for Polanco. He'll get there and he'll glove it. Boy, did he come a long, long way. And he had to negotiate the stands that stick out just near the foul line. Good play by Polanco. Normally a right fielder. He gives you a dandy play here from left to retire the Reds 1-2-3 in the first. On the Buccos for the first of 4 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's check Clint Hurdle's starting lineup. Cincinnati product Josh Harrison is always tough against the Reds. He'll lead it off. Josh Bell bats second. McCutchen in the number 3 spot. Polanco, Gung, Freese, Cervelli, Mercer in the 8th spot, and Nova bats in the number 9 position. On the mound for the Reds, Cincinnati's most consistent pitcher of the year, it's Dan Straley, Cowboy.
Straley's thrown the ball well every time he's pitched against the Pirates. I think the big thing for Straley is whatever he has working on this day is what you're going to see. Could be a lot of sliders, could be a lot of fastballs, maybe the changeup.
This rip towards the corner, curving towards the line. It will be a fair ball. Rounding first, going to second will be Harrison. So Josh starts it off with a base hit. He's now 4 for 11 and a couple of homers against Straley. And he's been igniting the offense. He's hit over 300 during this homestand, and he's got his average now up to 280 with that 22nd double of the season.
Fastball not where Straley wanted it. That ball was up and in. And it seems like, George, every time Josh Harrison plays against his hometown Reds, he comes out raking. Of course, here lately, he's been raking everybody.
He plays with a lot of energy. Grew up in Cincinnati. Of course, went to the University of Cincinnati. When he went back home earlier this year, went to the old homestead and visited the UC baseball team and just charmed everyone, as he does with everybody else in baseball. Just a firebrand of a player. Plays with energy all the time. There's Josh Bell in at 277, a couple of homers and 10 knocked in. Big swing, and Bell is one of those that has had success the last couple of years down at AAA. In fact, a big chunk of that AAA team from Indianapolis is up here with the club as they wrap up the 2016 season. In fact, the whole starting rotation is now up here, and in the next 2 weeks, this week and next week, you'll see just about every starter that Indianapolis had pitch against the Reds.
Well, Bell has got a big bat. I think the question for the Pirates and for manager Clint Hurdle, where are we going to play him? Is it going to be at first base? Is it going to be in the outfield? I'm not sure that it's going to be in the outfield unless they don't sign Andrew McCutchen back, because that outfield is pretty well set.
This is 22nd big league game, and he's been on base safely in 16 of those previous 21. He faces Straley for the first time. Pirates doing during the season what the Reds started to do in the offseason, that is decide who they weren't going to sign and move them on. McCutchen, of course, is still here as the linchpin in center field. Mark Melanson traded, and a whole host of other moves made by the Buccos, and they're still trying to stay consistent and stay in the race at the same time. That's a call, strike 3, so Straley gets the punch out, and there's one away as he freezes the runner at second.
Pretty good backdoor slider to shut down Josh Bell. This ball starts well over in the right-handed hitter's batter's box. Look at that baby come back.
Knee buckler, and that's out number 1. And here's McCutchen. McCutchen's been over 300 during the homestand. His average now up to 250. At one time it was in the 220s. And he's always been poison against the Reds. 26 homers against the Reds in the last 6 years. That trails only Ryan Braun by 1 and Reds opponent. Overall, 3 for 14 against Straley. Again, he's hit the 20 home run plateau. That gives him 171 career home runs, and that's 5th on the Pirates all-time list. Next up is Barry Bonds at 176. Pretty good company.
Oh yeah, but I think if you look at the overall numbers for Andrew McCutchen, even the on-base percentage, every number is down, and I think that's got to be concerning if you're in the Andrew McCutchen camp.
Hit hard down to short. They've got the runner nailed at third. They've got him tagged out between second and third. Base running mistake by Josh Harrison. Not often he'll make that mistake. He does here. So it goes 6-5 to 4. McCutchen on at first. Base running mistake by the normally smart base runner Josh Harrison.
The ball's in front of you, you freeze. If the ball's in between you and second base, you go. And that would be one where you probably needed to freeze.
And he got up a little gimpily as he heads to the dugout. We don't know if he might have wrenched his leg too. They can ill afford to lose him. The Pirates, a team that have not hit well. They pitch fairly well, but they have not hit well of late as they try to hang into the race for the wild card. So here's Polanco at 266. Good power, 21 homers, 82 knocked in for tonight's left fielder. He leads the team with those 21 homers and in runs batted in with 82, both of them career highs for the big swinging outfielder. Still to get a hit against Straley, 0 for 7 in his career. Marte back spasms this week, out of the lineup again today, and no matter who's pitching for the Reds, that's good news because he's killed the Reds.
There's no doubt about that. I think this matchup that we're seeing right now will be one that we'll talk about as we go on, because Polanco is a big part of this offensive machine for the Pirates when they score runs, and Straley does pretty well against left-handers. And a lot of it has to do with that last pitch, that changeup. We talked about it every time Straley takes the ball, but that changeup just really keeps the left-handers off balance.
You know, it's even more important in this day and age, you guys that come in throwing 98, 99. You still need something to keep people honest. And when you don't have a 98 or a 99, it's even more critical that you have that extra pitch.
I think when you talk to Dan Straley, he'll tell you, I could go out there and throw 95 or 96, just rear back and throw it as hard as I can. I might only pitch 4 innings. I might walk 7 batters, and I might have 8 or 9 strikeouts. But you don't know what you're going to get from day to day.
Short lead McCutchen. That's lined to the left side into left field, a base hit. The Reds overshifted to the right side against Polanco, and he burns him with the base hit to left. So it's first and second with 2 away, and here's Gong.
But if you're going to pull around to the pull side with your shortstop, you've got to have the fastball in and the off-speed stuff that he's out in front of. If you go away with the fastball, as Straley did there, that's right into the swing of Polanco to hit it right in the vacated spot by Kozar.
Well, you know, those 2 guys out at second will always talk, McCutchen and Brandon Phillips. Phillips will strike up a conversation with anybody, and there's a great deal of respect between those 2 men out there. 2 away, first and second, and here's the third baseman back in the lineup at 257, 17 homers and 46 knocked in. Returned from the DL on Monday. Remember last year he had the horrific knee injury. So he started this year slowly. He's been derailed a couple of times by nagging injuries, and it was his home run that gave the Pirates a win last night. It ended an 8-game losing streak. They're losing 8 in a row at the wrong time, huh?
And it's not been this guy's fault. In his last 10 games, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. When he's had an opportunity, as we see now, he's usually cashed it in.
1 for 5 against Straley in their matchup. Straley from the stretch gets his sign from Barnhart. Left center field. Will anybody get there? No, it's past the effort by Peraza all the way to the wall. 2 runs are going to score. And once again, Jung Ho Gung delivers big time. He's been the spark that the Pirates lineup has needed, and he burns Straley here in the first with a 2-run double, and it's 2-0 Pittsburgh.
If only he could just stay healthy. He does not miss the ball that's out over the plate. If it's high velocity, he'll shoot it the other way. If it stays in the middle or running towards him, he'll do just what he just did. Hit it all the way out towards that nook out by the bullpen doors.
Good effort by Peraza, and as Reds fans know, not in the lineup tonight is Billy Hamilton. Hamilton not even with the club. He's back in Cincinnati nursing that abdominal strain on his left side. He won't be here with the club on this road trip. They're hopeful that he might be able to get back next week, and fingers are crossed. I mean, Peraza's got speed. Nobody has Billy Hamilton's speed. You saw how close he came. Billy might have had that. 1 ball, 1 strike to David Freese.
Billy's one of those types of defensive players that when he's not there, you really notice.
Yeah, he's a game changer with his speed, not just on the base pass, but defensively. And if he doesn't win a Gold Glove this year, it will be a surprise, but certainly it's warranted the way he's played defense.
Oh, yeah.
Nub down to third, but foul. And Cowboy, you know it. You go into the manager's office. Whenever we play somebody, you go in and talk, and the coaches and the managers talk about the players they respect. And not just this year, but the last couple of years, his degree of respect among coaches and managers has continued to grow. And this year, they acknowledge his dominance in center field.
Yeah, I've had some pitchers from opposing clubs, quite a few as a matter of fact, that were very good, that said they're more worried about Hamilton than they are Votto.
Cozart, flat-footed throw, and not in time. The runner will go to third. He had no time to get anything behind the throw, so Freese will beat it out as a base hit. 4th hit of the inning, and it's 1st and 3rd with 2 away.
Not too many times are you going to see David Freese beat out a hit. Cozart got a little bit flat-footed, and he didn't get anything on the throw, and because of that, you got a guy at 1st and 3rd now.
And here comes Cervelli. Cervelli in a 264. No homers, 29 knocked in with 1st and 3rd. 0 for 3 against Straley in their matchup. Cervelli back in the lineup. He had fluid drained from his thumb on his left hand after being hit by a pitch, not at the plate, but behind the plate while he was catching the other night. He came back in the lineup last night. He's become a leader on this club, both on the field, in the clubhouse, and around the community as well.
He's a tough cat now. There's no doubt about that. Of course, if you catch in the big leagues, you better be a tough guy.
Nub behind the bag. Will anybody get there? No. Another run's going to score. Rounding second, going to third will be Freese. And back at second will be the runner who keeps running, Cervelli, and he makes it all the way to second. Well, because both Phillips and Cozart were on the grass in short center field, neither one could get back to second. So there was nobody to throw to and try to get Cervelli.
A jam shot hit in a perfect spot. And we saw this the other day with Peraza playing shortstop. Phillips ranged on the shortstop side of second base. Peraza had the baseball, but felt like he was going to run into Brandon Phillips. He bobbled the ball, and it looked like there Cozart thought he was going to run into Brandon Phillips, and he didn't get after the ball.
So now another run scores. It's 3-0, and there's a runner at second. Or rather, the run scores, and it is 3-0, and the runners at second and third. And here comes Mercer, the 8th batter of the inning. And they will walk Mercer to face Nova. Now the ball hit by Gung was a rocket shot. The other 3 hits not as dominant, but still they produced enough hits to give the Pirates a 3-0 lead here in the first. An intentional walk to Mercer, and that'll bring up Nova, the 9th batter here in the first inning.
Yeah, the 2 plays up the middle, the ball that was to Cozart's backhand side that he got flat-footed, and that ball up the middle. Normally those are plays that Zach makes.
And I think he might have made the play behind second, but Phillips dove for it.
Yeah,
and
Phillips was on the shortstop side of second. It's one thing to have great range, but you can't affect the play if you're not going to make it.
And even if he caught it, I don't think he could have thrown out the runner. Cozart was the only one that could have thrown out the runner. Swing and a miss by Nova, and it's 0-2. So the Reds, who dug themselves some holes against the Mets and losing that 3-game series, in fact they've lost 14 straight against the Mets over the last couple of years, are digging a big hole here in the first. And uncharacteristic for Straley, already he's given up 3. We showed you the numbers on him. This is 27th start of the year and 30th appearance. He's been money in the bank most of the time he's taken the mound for the Reds this year. 1-2. That'll do it, but 9 come to the plate in the first. Starts with a double by Harrison, ends with a hit by Cervelli that chases in the 3rd run. 3-0 Pittsburgh. Subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. Well, the Reds down 3-0, and we go to the top of the second. Adam Duvall, Brandon Phillips, Scott Schebler due up. That guy right there has made a big difference in this lineup since coming back off the disabled list on Monday.
And we just saw why.
And the ball that he hit was almost identical to the pitch selection and swing that he hit for the tape measure home run last night that gave the Pirates a 1-run lead and eventually gave them the 1-run win to avoid a sweep by the Cardinals. We've been impressed by him the last couple of years, haven't we? Offensively, he can play with anybody. They had no idea how good he would be, but he's shown that he's a major leaguer.
Gung has that big high leg kick. And you think as a pitcher you can get in on him, and then you go in there and he does what he just did, hit a double into the left center field gap.
2-0, bang down to short. Tricky hop. Mercer takes care of it, and they'll get Duvall by a step. Jordy's solid. He's second only to Freddie Galvis defensively in the National League. Only a couple of percentage points separate the two. And you know, he comes in a long line of Pirate shortstops. Remember Jack Wilson?
Oh yeah.
You hit it to him, you knew he was going to catch it, right?
Yeah, and I think when you look at what Mercer's been able to put on the board offensively this year, and it'd be tough to not have this guy at shortstop every day. 20 home runs, 20 doubles, 10 home runs. He's hitting right at 260.
Came up in the minor leagues with the Pirates, and Josh Harrison was his second baseman a good chunk of the time in the minors. And when the Pirates dealt Walker to the Mets, that opened the slot for Harrison to play second. So they're teamed again at the double play combo, and they've turned 146 double plays. That's either been one or two all year long in the National League. And this is a pitching staff that throws up a lot of ground balls too. Here's Brandon. 4 for 9 and a couple of homers against Nova. This one dribbled to the right side. Freeze will flip it to Nova, and they'll get Phillips. Now the other thing about getting Jung Ho Gong into the lineup is that you can move David Freeze to first. It gives you more offense at first. And there was a question. They didn't sign Freeze until spring training had already begun. They thought they had somebody that could certainly play third until Gong got back, and they were so happy with the way he has played and his stature in the clubhouse that they added a 2-year contract extension last month. That goes through the 2019 season, where we saw him dismantle some teams when he was with the Cardinals, didn't we?
No doubt. He's played himself right into a pretty good spot here in Pittsburgh.
And that's been a black hole for the Pirates. Who would man first base over the last few years?
I think up until they signed Freeze, I think a lot of folks thought that Josh Bell was going to be the next first baseman.
Freeze will gather that in, and Schebler's retired. So 6 up, 6 down for Nova. Top of the order, Harrison due up when we return. Yet, and the rest of the Central Division leading Cubs collide with Jose Altuve and the Astros in an interleague matchup. Coverage starts Saturday at 12:30 Eastern on Fox, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. There's Josh Harrison. Started it off with a 2-base hit to left in the first, but had his pocket picked on a ground ball to short. Was tagged out in a rundown between second and third. Paul Nauert, your home plate umpire. Marty Foster's at first. Lance Barrett is your second base umpire, and Pat Holberg is your umpire down at third. In the coach's box for the Pirates, as usual, down at first base, veteran Nick Leyva, one-time major league manager, longtime third base coach. Harrison will ask for time.
You go back out as a starter and you're facing the same guy to lead off the inning that you did in the first.
Not good.
No. And you just hope that the second time around is a little better.
It's been a revolving door in the leadoff spot until Harrison encamped himself there, and you saw those numbers. He's taken over that leadoff spot. Fly ball to center here, and there's one away. Here comes Josh Bell.
Well, I think that leadoff spot goes back to what you were talking about the energy and the upbeat, the leadership role that Josh Harrison has taken on this club. He fits that spot rather perfectly.
So one away here in the second. Straley trying to pick up his 12th win of the season. Will face Bell for the second time. He got him on a call strike 3, a slider on the outside corner, first time up.
Well, look how far Bell stands off the plate at setup and then just dives right into it. His back foot is off almost out of the batter's box. And there's one thing to have an open stance, but when your front foot, watch him come right into the plate. I mean, he's carrying his foot almost 2 feet towards the plate. A lot of movement.
Hard down to second. Phillips has it, and there's 2 away. 4-time Gold Glove winner handles that one. And here comes McCutchen. McCutchen reached on a fielder's choice in the first inning and scored a run. Overall, Andrew at 250 with those 20 homers and 60 knocked in. Former MVP, a guy that Pirate fans look to produce. Here's a fly ball, right center field at the warning track, looking up, reaching up, and making the catch is Schebler, and he collides with Peraza. And are they both okay? Yes, they are. Looks like Peraza got a elbow in the chest, but they both appear to be all right. 1, 2, 3 for Straley. Pirates 3 in the first, lead at 3-0. Here we go to the third, and there's Scott Schebler, and already 2 plays involving the center fielder. Schebler in a slight collision with Peraza, and Peraza came up very slowly and gingerly as they left. You see Schebler calling all the way, and it looked like he got either a leg or a knee in the side.
I think the issue here is that Peraza has not played center field.
Yep.
He's not comfortable with both of these guys out there. You normally have Billy Hamilton in center field, and you know Billy's going to catch that ball. Billy takes charge. When you've got a guy that's not used to being in center field and not taking charge, those are things that happen.
Already here in the early part of this game, you see the difference without Hamilton in the lineup on a regular basis. Billy, and that's not in any way a slight of Peraza. I think Peraza, one thing we found watching Peraza, Cowboy, number one, he can hit up here, and number two, wherever you put him, he's solid defensively. Bouncer down to third. Suarez is retired, one away. But when Billy's out there,
you know
like,
Billy's going to catch
exactly,
it. And Billy's going to take charge. But when you have a new guy out there, he may not even realize. And Peraza, he's not played center field a whole lot, so he really doesn't know if he's going to get the ball or not. So he's not calling it early like you have Hamilton. And all of a sudden you have that kind of collision.
Here's Barnhart at 257, 7 homers and 39 knocked in.
Just fortunate it wasn't worse than what it was.
And the hope is, fingers crossed, that Billy will be back when the Reds head back home. But you never know with those pull muscles in the side. Here's McCutchen, edge of the warning track, will glove it. Barnhart's retired, 2 away. Now a pulled side muscle, somewhat like a calf muscle or a hamstring, one of those injuries that when you think it's healed, you give it a few more days because it's such a deep injury, a deep muscle injury, not a top of the surface muscle, but deep, that you want to make sure it's okay.
Yeah, if you get it in the hamstring or in the leg or something that gets some blood flow, you've got an opportunity that treatment will benefit you rapidly. As far as an oblique injury, there's just not a whole lot of blood flow there. There's really not a whole lot you can do for it except just wait.
Here's Straley still looking for his first hit for 2016. And you look at the numbers and say this guy's been horrible at the plate, but he's handled himself well in sacrifice situations.
Well, we talk about this all the time. Would you rather have your pitcher hit a lot, or would you rather have him be able to execute a bunt?
A bunt.
In a National League, you want your pitcher to be able to bunt at all costs, and Straley has been able to do that. I'm sure Dan Straley would like to have that 0 in his lifetime strikeout or hit area covered, but it's not in this event.
Don't look at the scoreboard. When we return, Dan Straley will talk about Billy Hamilton, what he means to this team defensively.
Straley's reactions when Billy Hamilton makes a great catch. It seems like every start that Straley made, Hamilton was making an outstanding catch. But No Billy Hamilton on this trip here to Pittsburgh, and not for the foreseeable future. So Dan Straley told me, I feel a little bit naked on the mound without Billy out there. We saw that come to fruition in the first inning, a ball perhaps Hamilton would have gotten to. But those reactions have become priceless. In fact, once Billy makes a play, Dan Straley says, yeah, me and Billy, we made the plays of the week again. I said, we? He says, oh, yeah, they always use my reaction shot, too, so I'm part of it. It's we.
It'd be like us trying to do a game without you, JD. That's the way to do it. Always on the case. By the way, did you see what we saw on that play? It looked like Nauert had said that it was a foul tip and it was held onto by the catcher. And when you look at it, the replay certainly didn't show that.
Yeah, Brian Price was out to argue for most of the between innings there, to no avail.
Polanco first pitch swinging, pops it up in the infield. Who's going to take charge? Votto will. Got it, one away. Take a look at that pitch again.
Yeah, it did not appear that Dan Straley was anywhere near this ball. May have actually even caught some of the dirt, as a matter of fact. Not a real good call there.
Well, Straley called out. For the final out of the top of the third. Here's Gung, who's double chased home the first 2 runs for the Buccos with Freese on deck.
I guess that's one of those plays where you're listening for contact. You think that you hear it, and it actually is the ball tipping into the mitt or hitting the mitt. That's going to hurt. There's a lot of history between the Reds and the Pirates as far as hit batters go. My goodness, I don't know that there's anybody in baseball that's had this many hit batters between these two teams.
Yeah, it varies from year to year, but the bottom line is that usually it's in the vicinity of, I mean, coming into this year, these are the number 1 and number 2 teams in the last 3 years that have hit batters, and you see it's about even Steven when you add it all up over the last couple of years, and this year included.
I think that's the 17th batter that the 17th Pirate batter, I should qualify that the Reds have hit this year.
Here's Freese, reached on an infield hit first time up. So 1 out, 1 on. Freese to the plate. Fastball fouled off.
But you can see with Tucker Barnhart, he's setting on the outside corner, even in that last pitch, setting on the outside corner. And then the fastball is right at the hands of David Freese. So it's not that Straley is hitting Gung on purpose because he hit a double. He's just missing all the way across the plate.
No balls, 2 strikes. And the other side of it, when you look at this Pirate lineup, when the normal Pirates are in the lineup, that guy included, McCutchen, Marte, go down the list, Freese included too. You got to pitch inside. You're not going to beat him if you don't pitch inside.
Well, especially against a guy that's not in the lineup tonight, Starling Marte. You don't pitch him inside, he's going to hurt you bad.
0-2 takes a little off. Out in front is Freese, and that's a strikeout. That is strikeout number 3.
Pretty good changeup here from Straley, and the bottom just falls out of this one. It's all about the arm action from the pitcher. If it looks like a fastball, as a hitter, your first reaction is try to clear those hips and that front shoulder, and the ball is just not there yet.
Here's Cervelli. Singled in the first, knocked in a run. That made it 3-0 in the first inning. Cervelli's 30th run batted into the season.
There are points in time, George, where when your team doesn't appear to be playing with a whole lot of energy, as a starting pitcher, you feel like you have to do something, whether it's strike out a batter, knock a guy down. You have to create some energy in the ball game to bring your team back in it.
And that's about where the Reds have been the last couple of days against the Mets, and again the way this one has started here.
No doubt about it.
Straley from the stretch. Good block by Barnhart behind the plate.
I can remember the scouting reports that we used to have on Andre Dawson. He came into the series and he was 0 for 10 or 11. Every veteran pitcher in the room would say, do not throw him inside. Do not miss inside and wake him up. Just stay out there and let him stay asleep for the next 4 games.
Let sleeping dogs lie.
You got it.
1 ball, 1 strike. That's wide. And you talk about a guy who played the game brilliantly defensively. Offensively, he was an MVP. And in the clubhouse, he's as much of a leader as anybody of his generation. He had the trifecta.
He had a pretty good look standing at home plate. There's a reason they called him the Hawk.
2-1. This one lined into the left field corner, curving. It's a fair ball. And it hops over the fence. That'll benefit the Reds. It'll be a double for Cervelli. He's 2 for 2. The runner will have to hold at third, so it's 2nd and 3rd with 2 away.
That almost appeared to be the same pitch that Josh Harrison hit in the bottom of the 1st. You see where Tucker Barnhart is setting. He's setting on the outside corner, and this ball misses up and in.
That caroms into the stands after hitting in fair territory. So it's 2nd and 3rd, 2 away. And again, Jordy Mercer, who was intentionally walked in the 1st, will be intentionally walked here in the 3rd for the 2nd consecutive time to face Nova. You know, the other part of, I mean, Andre Dawson was one of the most enjoyable players I covered in my career. And when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, the one line I'll never forget, he said, love the game and the game will love you back.
He's right.
And boy, did he epitomize that.
Yeah, I think he did something that I don't know that we'll ever see again. When he left Montreal and he gave the Cubs a blank contract, he said, you just pay me whatever you want.
Dick Moss
and
was
he won the MVP.
Yep. Dick Moss was his agent, and Moss went into Dallas Green and put the contract down and said, you fill it in. He wants to play for you.
That's right. He wanted to get off that turf and get on some grass.
So bases loaded. Here's Nova for the 2nd time with the bases loaded. He struck out in the 1st. Straley will work from the stretch with the bases loaded. That kicks away, but the runner will hold at 3rd. Nova struck out on a breaking ball first time up. That breaking ball was way wide. Good block by Barnhart. Boy.
See the ball, the breaking ball that starts outside, as soon as it hits the dirt, it goes back the opposite way because of the spin.
And you got Wood on it, but fouls it off to the right side. 1 ball, 1 strike. Missing wide, and it's 2-1.
Straley's having a tough time getting the ball, the fastball, away from his arm side. You can see him really pull that ball off the plate, and that's after missing so many times close to the batter.
That's a strike. 2-2. Got him. Nova strikes out for the 2nd time. Pirates strand a pair. They still lead 3-0.
Michael Lorenzen changes number to 21 to honor one of his heroes, Roberto Clemente. Well, it's weird how things work out. He's also the Roberto Clemente Award nominee for the Reds. Yesterday was Roberto Clemente Day, and as fate would have it, the Reds flew into Pittsburgh on Roberto Clemente Day, and he struck up that friendship again with the Clemente family. And he tweeted out this: "Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would get to spend Clemente Day with the Clemente family at the Clemente Museum. Truly amazing people." Now, you might think that that's just timing is everything. Michael Lorenzen thinks it is fate. He believes in things that are meant to be. And this offseason, as we told you earlier in the season, he got to meet the Clemente family and told them one day he'll wear number 21 to honor Roberto, and he remains good friends with the Clementes. In fact, he texts back and forth with Roberto's son often.
Yeah, it was a very festive day here yesterday. The festivities took place here at the ballpark. There's a bouncer down to third. Peraza's retired for the second time. He grounded to short his first time up. There's one away. Still in right field. This was Roberto Clemente Day throughout baseball yesterday, and in right field, the number 21 still painted on the grass in right field here at PNC Park, where Roberto patrolled when he was at Forbes Field. Of course, that wall in center field, 21 feet tall, to commemorate number 21. And Lorenzen got in last night. He went over to the Clemente Museum. I talked to Roberto Jr. the last couple of days, and Roberto said we wanted him if he wanted to. We knew they'd get in late. Do you want to come over? Well, he spent about 2 hours till after midnight last night over at the Clemente Museum. And if you come to Pittsburgh, visit it. I mean, if you haven't been there in the last couple of years, it's gotten better and better the last couple of years. The Clemente family, Vera was here yesterday, all three boys. Roberto stayed through today, and you talk to Roberto, and there's a great fondness, Cowboy, for Michael Lorenzen and the sincerity under which he operates regarding Roberto Clemente. And I mean, we honor Jackie Robinson, and his number's retired. I've long believed that number 21 should be retired too, for what Roberto meant to baseball and what he meant to Latin American players forever.
And I think that when you talk about Roberto Clemente, you talk about Michael Lorenzen and the other guys that are the nominees, has nothing to do with raising their hand and saying, well, look what I've done. None of those guys could care about that. All they care about is the people that they're able to help through their position.
Number 21, worn so fabulously by Clemente here at Forbes Field for so many years. And he was so instrumental in spreading the word of baseball throughout Latin America. And of course, you know, he was in that plane that was provided by himself, paid for by himself, sending relief goods to Nicaraguan earthquake victims. And he got on the plane himself only because the word was that the relief goods that were going to Nicaragua were not getting to the people who needed it the most. We said, I'm going with you. And on New Year's Eve, he got on the plane, probably should have never got on it. It was overloaded, crashed off Puerto Rico into the ocean, and one of the greatest baseball players of all time perished. I met him in 1964, and I could still, Roberto and I were talking about it today, I could still remember shaking hands with him. I get goosebumps when I think of it. It was like, I mean, his hand was 3 times the size of my hand. It was amazing. What a tremendous ball player, but even more importantly, what a tremendous representative of the game of baseball. And his wife Vera has kept the flame burning, as his 3 sons have as well. Here's Joey, fly to left, first time up. Bounce to the right side. Freeze takes the easy hop, flips it over to Nova, and the Reds go 1-2-3. So far, 12 up, 12 down for the Reds. The Clemente statue honoring number 21 outside the ballpark here. As Cincinnati Bell-Fi Optics presents Angry Birds. Bring the whole family and enjoy the Angry Bird movie on the scoreboard. Games and a whole lot more. Post-movie fireworks show. An exciting night. Purchase tickets today at reds.com/movie night. Some of the Reds faithful here in Pittsburgh. There's a first pitch fastball fouled off to the right side by Harrison. Third straight time Josh Harrison is leading off an inning. He's double to left, fly to center, and here he leads it off in the fourth. Setting up inside is Barnhart. And I get him. So 2 hit batters by Straley as he drills Harrison. And the beat goes on for these two teams.
I can't tell you how many times Straley has missed in that spot. And it's going to appear to the Pirate dugout that he's doing it on purpose, especially because of the way he got hit in the first inning. Because he's nailed the 2 guys that had the big hits, in Gung and Harrison.
So Harrison's on. He doubled in the first and was caught in a rundown between second and third and tagged out. Flied out. He's got stolen base capabilities. Peers across the infield, and Rick Sofield, the third base coach.
And I've got to believe, George, that sitting on 19 steals, Harrison would love to have that round 20 number as soon as possible and get it out of his mind.
Runner not going. Josh Bell takes it outside for ball 1. Bell struck out on a slider first time up looking and bounced to second time up. Bell turned 24 last month. Native of Texas. Originally a draft pick back in the 2nd round by the Buccos in 2011. That's a bullet in the left, a base hit. Harrison will have to stop at second. So Bell delivers a base hit. And the first 2 batters are on here in the 4th. This is predominantly a veteran Pirate club, but they're trying to bring in some of the young blood, and Bell is one of them.
Yeah, well, you were talking earlier about a lot of the young arms that Indianapolis have. They're here, and they're going to be starting over there or pitching over the next couple of weeks. A lot of them.
So first and second for McCutcheon. McCutcheon sitting on 60 runs batted in on the year. Bounced into a fielder's choice and flied to center. A year ago he started off very slowly, and everybody wondered, was it an injury? And I think it probably was. He had a side muscle pull and knee difficulty. This year, no such question surrounding a subpar start. He's finally started to turn it on the last few weeks to get his average up to 250, but nowhere near what Pirate fans and what his teammates expect.
Yeah, he doesn't have the walk numbers that we normally see for McCutcheon, but he does have an exorbitant amount of strikeouts, and that's not normally what you see out of McCutcheon. Tells me that he's maybe pressing a little bit, trying to swing at too many pitches.
1 ball, 1 strike. Short lead. Off second is Harrison as Phillips tries to keep him as close as he can. Nobody out. The Reds hopeful of turning a double play here, and it's 2-1. Hopped up right sides. There's going to be room for Votto. Curving towards the seats. It'll be about 10 rows deep. Far from a sellout tonight here in Pittsburgh, and boy, things have changed rapidly. I mean, there was that big stretch of losing seasons, and then 17 sellouts 4 years ago, then 23 sellouts, then 23 sellouts, then 21 last year. And this year they've had only 7 sellouts as they've faded from first place and now trying to hang in the race for the wild card. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Swing and a miss, and again McCutchen in a key at-bat situation for the Buccos strikes out. He's 0 for 3, and that's strikeout number 5 for Straley.
There's that changeup again, and he had McCutchen well out in front. Sliders and fastballs to get into the count, and then the changeup. It starts right in the middle of the plate. It looks great, and then it just falls into the dirt.
And you look at a changeup that works like Straley's, and you say, why don't people throw more changeups? And the bottom line
hard
is,
to do.
yeah, I mean, you don't just learn it overnight.
No, you're throwing as hard as you can with your arm action, and the ball comes out like you're pulling a string backwards.
And you have to have faith in it.
You're exactly right. That was something that was very difficult for me my entire career. I mean, if I had not learned the split, I don't know what I would have done.
Polanco singled and popped up 1 for 2. And you were a shortstop. I mean, you were a position player. You didn't have gigantic hands. So to find a changeup that worked, if you have big fingers, you know, it's easier to throw the circle change.
It is.
When you found the split, was that your vehicle to?
That worked immediately, because I could spread my index finger and my middle finger wide enough to get a hold of that baseball and still control it. But trying to use the circle change grip and using your ring finger and your middle finger, it just did not work for me. I had to have something that I could be aggressive towards the plate, and that circle change, which is what Straley throws and what most people throw that are good with it.
Votto's got it, and they'll go to second and double him up. So good job after a hit batter and a base hit, a strikeout and a line drive double play. Straley's out of trouble. Here comes Duvall. Elkin out, serious lawyers for serious injuries. What a difference change in scenery makes for Ivan Nova. Strikeout to walk ratio with the Yankees in 15 starts. And look at it with the Pirates in 6 starts. His strikeouts are up and his walks are down, Cowboy.
Yeah, I think that Ray Searage has always made it a point with pitchers that have come over in reclamation projects. And I guess Nova would fall into that category a little bit. Pound the strike zone. I want you to throw strikes with everything you've got, especially on the first pitch of the at bat. And that's where you get away from the walks. You got to get ahead in the count. That way, if you do throw a couple of balls, it's not 3-0, it's only 2-1.
There's ball 1 to Duvall, who bounced to short first time up. Adam reached that key plateau in any power hitter's repertoire. 30 home runs now and 87 knocked in. Man, what a year he's had. You talk about impact players that not have come out of nowhere, but certainly have solidified their role. That's a throw in the dirt. Freese can't hold on to it, and Duvall will be on. It looked like Nova took his time thinking he had plenty of time, but boy, did Duvall hustle down the line. It'll go as a base hit for Duvall.
This is the problem that you have as a pitcher. You jog towards the ball thinking you have a whole lot of time, and then you try to hurry once you get it because you see the guy hustling down the line. You're better off moving your feet and your body quickly to the ball, set your feet, and then make a strong throw. But if you're lazy off the mound, that's what happens.
Well, Duvall's on. That's the first hit for the Reds. It comes with the leadoff batter here in the 5th inning, and the first base runner as well for Cincinnati. Here's Brandon, bounced to first time up. Brandon's the one guy in this lineup that's done some damage against Nova. He's 0 for 1 tonight, but coming in he was 4 for 9 and a couple of homers. Not this time though. They'll get one at second, on to first, and that is twin killing number 147 on the season for the Buccos. Phillips usually one of the league leaders in hitting into double plays, and he grounds into this one to erase the base runner, 2 away. So Nova gets some help from his defense, and here comes Schebler, who bounced to first time up. Liner into left. That's a base hit. How important was that double play now?
First batter that the Reds have sent to the plate today that has made an adjustment on that side of the plate. Nova has not thrown a fastball away from a righty or into a lefty. He's going to throw the ball to arm side. If you're a right-hander, look for it in. If you're a left-hander, the ball's going to be away.
So 2 away, the runner on, and here's Suarez, who bounced to third first time up. They overshift in the infield with Harrison almost behind the second base bag. We talk a lot about the metrics of shifting and defensive coordination in this day and age, and nobody did more of it than the Pirates. They really started the revolution in the National League. Nobody shifted more over the last 4 years than Clint Hurdle's ball club. Hurdle now in his 6th year here in Pittsburgh, but this year they're doing less of it. And you wonder, is that because of pitching? Is that because of defense? But they're not shifting quite as much, and for that matter, there are a lot of teams that aren't shifting quite as much as they have the last couple of years.
I think it's difficult to calculate a shift when you have an unpredictable pitcher. When you have young pitchers, you don't know exactly what their tendencies are. So if you overshift, sometimes the young pitchers can't pitch to the spot that you need them to pitch to.
Tries to check it, can't do it. Suarez is retired, so are the Reds. Couple of hits for the Reds, nothing to show for it. 4 strikeouts for Nova. Fox Sports Ohio being brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. Great to have you with us here at PNC Park. George Grant and the Cowboy Jeff Brantley and Jim Day down in the truck. Josh Hall, our producer, Brian Hunterman, our director, Kevin Penowit dialing up some highlights for you, and Jim Miller giving you some graphic support as well. As Jung Ho Gong comes up for the third time. He doubled and was hit by a pitch. Doubled in 2 runs back in the first inning.
You watch Gung with that big leg kick, and when he swings, it looks like he is swinging with all of his might on every pitch. And there is no holdback.
Last year was his first year in Pittsburgh. Hit .287 with 15 homers and 58 knocked in until his season was curtailed by that knee injury. That came after a lengthy career in Korea, where he was one of the most impactful players, and everybody wondered how good would he be in the major leagues. Well, he's certainly shown that he's up to the task.
Well, I think he showed right away that he could hit here, and now it's up to Gung to show that he can play on an everyday basis and stay healthy.
Looped into left. That will be caught by Duvall. Oh, they finally retire Gong on the fly ball to left. By the way, in between innings, the official scorer here in Pittsburgh announced they were changing the call on Duvall's ball in front of the mound, and they're charging an error and not a base hit. So Duvall from a base hit here in the 5th, which would have been the first hit for the Reds, that goes to an error. So the Reds have only 1 hit and 1 batter left.
You know, on that ball that Gung just hit, George, if you watch the break by Adam Duvall, it just shows you what kind of athletic talent that kid has out in left field. Not just a slugger. And he's played some awfully good defense on the left field side of Billy Hamilton. Not just on his breaks, but we've seen him throw runners out. Threw Wilmer Flores out twice in 2 consecutive at bats.
He does everything fundamentally correct. It's a great testament to how he grew up, to his tutelage at Louisville as well.
Former shortstop at Louisville.
Yep.
Played third base a little bit as he came up through the Giants organization. I think there was a question mark when the Reds traded for him. Was he going to be able to play in the outfield? I think he's answered that.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Freese, who singled and struck out. And they get him for the 2nd time. That's strikeout number 6. Hey, don't miss a day of Reds baseball and one of Cincinnati's most historic annual events, Oktoberfest Cincinnati. Park wants take in 2 Reds games and celebrate the Queen City's German heritage, plus the first 20,000 fans at Saturday night 6:10 game receive a Red Stein thanks to Moreland Lager House. For tickets, visit reds.com. Got to get those Steins, right, Jesse? You still got them in your back of your car from last year, don't you? They're collector's items. Jesse Jackson making the trek from Cincinnati here. He drove over. So did you, Cowboy.
I did drive over.
And you didn't get a ticket, did you?
It's the first time I've ever done. I've ever driven to a major league game in now 30 years.
That's big. Strike 1 to Cervelli. Now, normally, Jesse, how long does it take to get from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh?
Stop it.
5 hours? Cowboy, how long did it take you to get here?
Didn't take me 5 hours.
In the Batmobile? In the Batmobile.
Batmobile got here pretty quick. There was not very much traffic.
No, and fortunately no state troopers either.
No, there was not. That's a good thing.
You got here all right, then you circled the city for a while before you finally found a hotel.
It's hard. It's a little harder when you're not on the bus to find the hotel.
See, Gary Wayhoff knows how to get there and get there right. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Cervelli, who singled in a run and doubled. He's 2 for 2. And over the years, when they've been weekend series, a lot of Pittsburgh fans have driven to Cincinnati and vice versa. That's true in baseball and in football too for the Bengals and Steelers fans.
It's pretty good competition between the two cities.
This will be the year, though. The Bengals will beat the Steelers in a playoff game.
Are you going on record, George?
The Bengals will win a playoff game this year. Full count, 3-2. That's inside, ball 4. By the way, for a guy who's a great high school athlete in your own right, what do you think about Marvin Lewis telling his quarterback, don't, whatever you do, make a tackle if you throw another interception?
Well, you're trying to keep your quarterback healthy.
Exactly.
And
it's different, isn't it?
And a lot of times when a quarterback throws an interception, he's upset, trying to prove to the other guys, hey, I'm not just a guy that wears the yellow jersey so nobody hits me. And
that's Andy Dalton.
I can
You're right.
hit too.
I'm a football player.
Then you end up separating your shoulder, and then you're done. Ask Tony Romo about making tackles.
Yep. Well, we hope Andy stays healthy. The Bengals offense stays healthy. The defense does what it's supposed to do, and it's on to the playoffs.
Of course, A.J. McCarron last year was awfully good. Alabama quarterback.
Opening night of the NFL season tonight. After 215 days. Rematch of the Super Bowl. Denver and Carolina. And a lot of folks think that neither one of them will make it back to the Super Bowl this year.
I can't imagine in today's day and age how, with the importance that's put on the quarterback position, A.J. McCarron is going to be a backup very long. It's going to be a tough decision for the Bengals here shortly.
1 ball, 1 strike to Jordy Mercer. First time they're actually pitching to him. He came up with 2 runners on the first 2 times up and was intentionally walked. One hopper down to short. Cozart will shovel it over to Phillips. That'll do it. A 2-out walk, nothing to show for it. Pirates still lead 3-0. Barnhart due up.
The New York Mets are the ones that signed Tim Tebow to a minor league deal. He will report to Instructional League in Port St. Lucie. Big scare last night for D.C. Steven Strasburg left the game in the 3rd inning, and when he left, it did not look good. But tests revealed a strained flexor mass. Who knows his availability going forward? But the big news there is he does not need Tommy John surgery. And here in Pittsburgh last night, the Cardinals had their 25-game home run streak ended. And they had tied that National League record set earlier this season by San Diego. So a lot of mixed reviews, though, on whether or not Tim Tebow should get a shot.
And kind of difficult. I mean, we saw Michael Jordan try to make a transition. There was no better athlete than Jordan. He couldn't do it, not so much defensively, but offensively. And can Tebow make that kind of a switch? Tough to do at that age, 31.
I think that Sandy Alderson probably said it as good as anybody. If you can have some of your young players be around an athlete with the integrity of Tim Tebow, I think it's worth the money spent, because he's an awfully dedicated worker. He's going to do everything he can to try to perform in professional baseball. I don't think he has a chance at all.
Barnhart dumps one down to third. Good job by Tucker. A leadoff base hit, a bunt hit here in the sixth. Nice job by Barnhart.
I think work ethic and integrity could rub off on some young players. Great idea by Tucker Barnhart. Ideas are great, but you still have to execute, and especially with Gung playing as far back behind the bag as he was in that situation.
Tucker, 25 years of age. Won't turn 26 until January, on at first with one away.
You know, we say this time and time again, George, where would the Reds be? And I know this has not been a great year, but where would they be if they didn't have Tucker Barnhart?
Here's Hernani Ribaron, who will pinch hit, and so far so good for the guy who was the leading hitter in the league for Louisville this year. As a pinch hitter, back-to-back pinch hits, and retired yesterday for the first time. 429 overall. Not a young up-and-coming star, guy who's been around, who's suffered knee injuries, who suffered through difficult seasons, but he's earned a call up here, Cowboy. He's making the best of it.
Yeah, it's not a prospect call up, it's a reward. And I think when you look at some of your younger guys, you want guys to persevere. You win a batting title, you deserve to get called up to the big leagues, and he did that.
No balls, 2 strikes. Down to first, but foul.
If you think about it, you look at the career of Iribarren and his age at 32, playing in AAA, and the chance of getting to a big league club right now was very slim unless he did something that he did this year. He's probably looking more along the lines of coaching next year rather than playing in the big leagues. He's kind of changed his fortunes a little bit.
That's up high to Hernan. He's hitting for Straley, so Straley's night is done. 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, and 3 walks. 89 pitches in his 5 innings of work for Dan Straley. 1 ball, 2 strikes to the Reds pinch hitter. Good eye, wide. Kivas Sampson up and loosening under the tutelage of Teddy Power in the Reds bullpen. Expanded rosters for both of these ball clubs, so loaded bullpens for both teams. Over to the stretch. That's a liner, another base hit for the pinch hitter, and it'll be first and second. Hernan delivers with a base hit to left. He fell down 0-2, Cowboy, and then showed good presence at the plate.
Oh, Iribarren's been around enough. There's not a whole lot of panic in this guy. That pitch was supposed to be down and away, which is that arm side sinker that we've seen all night. He left it in the middle of the plate. That's what you're supposed to do with it.
The 2 on, nobody out. Back to the top of the order, Jose Peraza. 2 ground ball outs, 1 to short, 1 to third.
Well, let's see what kind of fight the Reds have in them right here. You got your first 2 batters aboard. Now you got to do something with it.
Ground ball down to short. 6, 4, 3. Double play for the Pirates, their second of the night, and that erases one of the base runners, with Barnhart going to third.
Not what the doctor ordered.
And, you know, impatience maybe for a young hitter. Wait to get your pitch in a situation like that, knowing how important that at bat is. First pitch, ground ball. There's a bouncer to the right side. Here comes Harrison up quickly, throwing, not in time. That'll get a run in. Good job by Cozart to hustle. Cozart gets a single and a run batted in after striking out twice. Zach hustles that for a base hit. And the Reds are on the board. It's 3-1.
Well, the Pirates are playing Cozart to pull. You can see there is nobody on the right field side of second base. Harrison has to dive for this ball, which would have normally been a routine ground ball to second. Cozart does a good job pushing the ball that way and then hustling down the line.
But Cozart picks up run batted in number 49. He's on first, 2 away, and here's Joey. Votto fouled out to the left fielder down the left field line and then bounced to first. Slaps that one away and out of play. How about Joey yesterday? Frustrated on his next to last at bat, breaking the bat over his leg. Didn't slam it, but just pressured it on his leg. I mean, we've seen, Bo Jackson, whammo, but he just pushed it. Strong man, huh?
I would say so.
That's a bouncer to the right side. Harrison has it, and that'll do it for the Reds. But a couple of base hits to start the inning, and a base hit by Cozart. The third hit of the inning gets a run in. The Reds are on the board. They trail 3-1.
Saturday's game against Tulsa. Don't miss Game Time with Urban Meyer Saturday morning at 9 a.m. as the Buckeye head coach looks back on last week's big win in this week's game against the Golden Hurricane at the Horseshoe. Game Time with Urban Meyer, 9 a.m. Saturday morning. And speaking of college football, our last game broadcast, first time up for Zach Cozart. He had to come to the plate. His walk-up music was the Florida State fight song. He lost the bet with Tyler Holt, the Florida State product. His Ole Miss squad went down to the Seminoles. Now, this was supposed to last every at-bat throughout the game, but in that first at-bat, Cozart struck out looking. Doesn't do it often. He's a very aggressive hitter at the plate. So Tyler Holt said, I'm as much superstitious about other guys as I am about myself. I put an end to it right then, right when he struck out.
That's a good teammate, huh, JD?
Indeed. Although I asked Zach if it was one of the most painful moments on the baseball field, and he said, yes, not because of the fight song, because it was Tyler Holt. He gets on my nerves.
Well, Cozart delivers an infield hit, produces a run for the Reds, and here we go. Nova to the plate facing the new Reds pitcher, Kivas Sampson. He's up for the third time, Cowboy, with the Reds. 2 times earlier in the year, and then after spending most of the year at Louisville, he's back here in September.
Yeah, I think the big key for Kivas Sampson going forward, and it's really been an issue for him, whether he was with San Diego or whether he's now in the big leagues with the Reds, is just consistency in the strike zone, whether it be a fastball, a breaking ball, a changeup, whatever that may be. And you can say, well, he doesn't get to pitch much out of the bullpen. You get to pitch a lot if you get them out. If you get them out with regularity, your opportunities come more rapidly.
That's a strikeout. Nova strikes out for the 3rd time. Strikeout number 1 for Sampson. Hey, just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. Here comes Josh Harrison. A double, a fly ball out, and hit by a pitch up here with 1 away in the 6th inning. By the way, on Fox Sports Ohio, we'd like to send out a special happy birthday wish to Genevieve Tooby from Dayton, who's celebrating her 96th birthday today. Happy birthday, Genevieve. 96 tremendous years rooting on the Reds, and we wish you only the best, you and your Dayton Dragons.
You know, I want to congratulate you, George, on pronouncing that just perfectly.
I hope so. We'll have to ask Genevieve.
And I'm glad that they asked you to read that, not me, because I'd have butchered it.
Genevieve, we love you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Don.
And by the way, up in the man cave, we're sure that Al McCoy is sitting there up in Dayton watching Reds baseball tonight. The real McCoy. Fly ball, right center field. Looking up, Schebler at the wall. It is off the base of the wall. It'll be the 2nd double of the night for Josh Harrison. A 2 for 3 and hit by a pitch is Harrison. He's in scoring position with 1 out here in the 6th.
Left that ball up and out over the plate. And there's one thing about the big leagues that you hear time and time again: stay out of the middle of the plate. Easier said than done, I understand that, but if you want to pitch in the big leagues and have some time up here, you can't throw the ball in the middle of the plate. You've got to be on the corners, or at least middle away or middle in.
Here's Josh Bell, struck out, bounced out, and singled to left in the 4th inning. Reds got a run back within 2, but the Pirates threatening again. Swing and a miss for strike 1 on Bell.
So much movement in the swing. Just don't stay in the same place back-to-back pitches.
You talk about it, Cowboy, when you talk about learning how to pitch. I mean, George Bamberger always said, I don't even want to talk to a player until he's got 300 innings in the minor leagues. I want to see who he is. Same thing for a hitter. Ted Williams always said, I don't want to talk to a hitter until he's got 1,000 at-bats in the minor leagues. You got to find out who you are, what you are, and how do you react to major league pitching. Can he do it with this stance? Can he do it with this approach? And that's what the Pirates are trying to find out.
There's no doubt that this kid Bell has a tremendous amount of power. But when you have that much movement, that means you have to start that much earlier. And for guys that are veteran pitchers that have a little giddy up on the fastball or the ability to locate breaking balls, split fingers, change ups, it's going to make for a tough time for this young man unless he can shorten that swing.
Pirates have had a parade of great young players come through the minor leagues. You know, Marte, McCutchen, Polanco, and Bell was also a minor league player of the year. That was 2 years ago for the Buccos. And this year down at Indianapolis, solid. Worked hard at a lot of the areas that the Pirates told him to work on down at AAA. Three balls, 2 strikes, full count with Harrison off second. And 1 away here in the 6th.
Sampson had him down 0-2 on 2 changeups off the plate away. The last 3 pitches have not been close.
Yes, missing the outside corner, and there's a free pass. So first and second, and that'll bring up McCutchen with once again 2 runners on. And here comes Sean Rodriguez, who will pinch run for Bell. And not odd very often that Clint Hurdle will, especially with the expanded bench, get Rodriguez into a game early. And here Rodriguez comes in. You know his track record. He'll play all over the place defensively. His home run earlier in the year beat the Reds in a walk-off win, one of only 3 walk-off wins that the Pirates have. Here's McCutchen. That's a strike. McCutchen bounced into a fielder's choice, fly to center, and struck out. Barnhart sets up away in the dirt. Good block by Barnhart with Harrison out at second. Ball and a strike to the Bucco center fielder. Yes, missing down and away, and it's 2-1. Polanco is 1 for 3 in the on-deck circle. Right down there, middle for a strike, and it's 2-2. Sampson checks the runner. Harrison out at second. Here's the 2-2 to McCutchen. Had him way out in front, just did get a piece to stay alive. Now you talk about Straley and how he has developed his changeup. Sampson's in that in-between state, trying to find a way, especially out of the bullpen. Tough to develop the off-speed pitch.
Yeah, I think that the breaking ball for Sampson will play up here. He definitely has enough fastball. He just doesn't locate the fastball. But the breaking ball has to start in the strike zone and then get out. If you start it down in the dirt, hitters like McCutchen and most big league hitters, they're not swinging at it until you get to 2 strikes.
2-2. Yes, missing inside, and we'll go full. And his MVP years wasn't odd for Hurdle to send the runners in this kind of a situation with McCutchen, but now that he strikes out so much, very seldom have they done it this year. First and second. Here's the 3-2 with 1 out. Runner's not going. That's hit through the hole into left. A base hit. Here comes Harrison. Here comes the throw to the plate. They will not get him. Safe at the plate is Josh Harrison. Harrison made a brilliant slide last night to get the Pirates on the board, reaching in behind Yadi Molina, and here just the opposite. He sensed where the catcher Barnhart was going, and he went inside the throw and scores to make it 4-1.
Pretty good job by Duvall getting to the ball quickly. Makes a strong throw. It's just towards the third base dugout rather than towards the mound a little bit. Otherwise you might have had a play.
So McCutchen picks up his 61st run batted in, his first hit of the night, and the Pirates' 3-run lead is in effect again. It's 4-1. And a good job, good break by Harrison. get a quick step as soon as the ball left the bat. So the runner holds at second. It's now first and second, still only one out. And here's Polanco, who singled in that 3-run first, popped up and lined into a double play.
You know, the Reds have lost they've lost 12 of their last 16 games, only winning 4. And a lot of it has to do with what we saw in the beginning of the season. The guys that come in the ball game in the 6th and 7th inning, instead of being able to hold the score at what it is, a 3-1 ball game, they come in and they give up a bunch of runs, and then it just kills the team morale.
The one stretch where the Reds improved right after the All-Star break.
That was it.
Exactly the opposite.
They came out of the bullpen with a vengeance and a purpose and pitching awfully well, and it's not happening right now.
And 2-0 is the count to Polanco. Nub down to first. Votto will tap the bag for the second out, but both runners advance to second and third. Let's take a look since the All-Star break. When you look at the Reds, first 20 games they were 21-12. 9 games over 500, second best in Major League Baseball. And in the last 16 games, 4-12, second worst in Major League Baseball. And again, a lot of that tied to the bullpen and middle relief.
And that's really where the Reds got off on the wrong foot at the beginning of the year. Guys coming out of the bullpen either were not ready or not prepared or enamored with the situation or overwhelmed by the situation and not being able to get the job done.
Here's Jung Ho Gong. He doubled in 2 runs first time up, popped out, hit by a pitch rather, and then fly to left his last time up.
And there are a lot of guys that will say, well, I haven't pitched in 5 days. Well, the reason you haven't pitched in 5 days is because 5 days ago you didn't pitch very good.
Key at bat here. It's a 3-run lead. Runners in scoring position at second and third for the Pirates' hottest hitter. Tries to hold. Did he go? Yes, he did. Marty Foster saying yes, he went around. Gong disagreeing, steps out of the batter's box.
See, that breaking ball started much higher than the breaking balls to McCutchen. See where that ball starts? Right at the mask of Barnhart. That's in the hit zone. You have to have a hitter starting to commit. That's why you get the check swing.
He held. Gong had an argument there. 1-1. That's wide. And it's 2-1. Rodriguez off third. And McCutchen off second. 3-1.
You're almost to the point where when you bring up kids from the minor leagues, I say you don't bring them to the big leagues unless they can throw a breaking ball for a strike. If you can't do that, you can't pitch up here.
3-1. Down to third. Across to Votto. And that'll do it. But a base hit by McCutchen plates the 4th run for the Buccos. They lead at 4-1. Pirates lead it 4-1. Gung Ho Dong delivers in the first inning. A double to center field makes it 2-0. The Buccos added to that lead with a Francisco Cervelli base hit to center field. 3-0. Pittsburgh had the lead as they sent 9 to the plate in the first inning. Zach Cozart got the Reds on the board. Reds didn't have a hit until the 5th inning. And finally in the 6th, Cozart's infield hit plates a run. Barnhart scores. And then McCutchen came back with a base hit to left field. The throw to the plate just a little tardy as Josh Harrison scores, and the Pirates have a 4-1 lead. So 4 runs for the Buccos, a 1-run marker for the Reds. 10 left on base for Pittsburgh already. The Reds have only 4 hits. If you joined us late, Dan Straley started 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, and 3 walks. And Nova has been in there all the way. Didn't give up a hit until there was 1 out in the 5th inning and gave up a run in the 6th. Here we are in the 7th. Adam Duvall leads an inning off for the 3rd time. Duvall bounced to short and reached on what was first ruled a base hit in the 5th and then changed to an error. Rodriguez stays in the game. He's in right field for Josh Bell. Hit pretty hard to center, starting in, now going back is McCutchen, and he makes a catch. That's a Gold Glove catch. His first step was in, and then boy did he turn on the jets to catch up with this one, Cowboy.
That ball was hit awfully hard, like a 2-iron as it came off the bat. You're right, McCutchen just flat ran that one down. I mean, that's a leap even as you get to the point of catching the baseball.
So Nova has some help from his defense. That prevents at least a double for Duvall. And there's 1 away. Here's Phillips, bounced to 3rd and bounced into a 6-4-3 double play. Back to developing young pitcher, Cowboy. I mean, you've been through it. You were a starter, a reliever, a middle guy, a closer. There's a bouncer to the left side, but foul. And you learn by pitching, yes, but you learn. I mean, you mentioned Dan Straley. Straley's a great example. It was Straley's tutelage that has helped not just players here, but players in other venues.
His changeup is what really has helped Brandon Finnegan
Yep.
kind of finish out this year. Just the grip, and I think that's part of the collective. I think if you're not helping each other, then you're hurting each other.
Nice play by the 3rd baseman. Gung's throw to first right on the money, and Phillips robbed of potential extra bases. Jung Ho Gong, nice play at 3rd, and there's 2 away. So 2 fine defensive plays prevent the Reds from getting something going here in the 7th. Hey, don't miss Bark in the Park, presented by Heinz and Kroger at Great American Ballpark. Purchase your Bark in the Park package and bring your furry friend to the ballpark. Get a dog jersey and more. You can hurry. Spots are going fast. Visit reds.com/dogday and purchase today. That's September the 13th. Join us at the new ballpark by the river.
I think you know when you've got a guy that's sitting next to you in the locker that he's on your side. He's pulling for you. He's helping you maybe learn a new pitch, maybe have a little different mentality, whether you're at the plate or on the mound or in the field. And I think you learn to trust each other, and that's part of coming together as a team.
Schebler slices this one to left. He's 1 for 3, a single to left, his 2nd time up. Reds still trail 4-1 going to the bottom of 7th.
Cast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Hey, prior to Saturday night's main event, don't miss UFC 203 prelims. 10th ranked Jessica Ai battles 11th ranked Betch Correia, plus veteran Nick Lenz withstand newcomer Michael McBride. UFC 203 prelims Saturday at 7 Eastern on FS1, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. Let's see, that Saturday night. Jesse, you going to be able to watch that after our game? You got it. Okay. Here we go to the bottom of 7. Jumbo Diaz in out of the Reds bullpen. He's the third Reds pitcher. Dan Straley, 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs. Kivas Sampson pitched an inning, gave up a run, and here's Jumbo in the 7th inning to take over for the Reds. His 36th appearance of the season, Cowboy.
Hard fastball. Big key for Diaz is whether he can get his breaking ball somewhere close to the plate. And there's no doubt he has always had the high velocity fastball. If he can get his breaking ball over the plate, he can dominate. But that has been few and far between.
Here's David Freese, singled and then struck out twice. There's a swing in the right center field, going back, looking up towards the wall. It is off the top of the wall, so Freese will have a 2-base hit as Peraza gets it back in. He didn't miss a homer by much.
Well, when you've been around the league at least one time, and in this day and age, George, as you know, as we see this ball go off the wall in right center field, a fastball right down the heart of the plate. Everybody knows what you throw before you even get here. I mean, they know what Dansby Swanson swings at. They know about Trey Turner in Washington. So you have to be able to adjust when you get to the big leagues right off the bat if you want to be successful. Every team knows that Diaz throws the ball 98 miles an hour, and he's going to throw a lot of fastballs. That's all they're looking for.
So runner in scoring position. Here's Cervelli. 2 for 2 and a walk for Francisco. Singled in a run and then doubled in the 3rd. And it's been a roller coaster for Jumbo all year long. Last year he really resurrected his career, and the Reds were hopeful that he'd progress from that this year.
Well, when he was sitting down last year, the one thing that Ted Power did was make sure that he worked on throwing the breaking ball for a strike, because when he came back up, he was doing that and he dominated. He threw the ball great, but that has not been the case when he was sent down and came back this time.
And he's behind here 2-0 to Cervelli. High fly ball to right. Freese tagging at second, but he'll hold there. And you make a great point, because Teddy Power has resurrected so many careers down at Louisville the last few years. He's back up with the Reds now at the major league level. But the other part of that equation was that when Johnny Cueto left, he told Jumbo, you've got to be able to control your breaking ball. Yes. And that talk from Johnny Cueto was critical.
Time and time again, Johnny continued to harp not only with Jumbo, but with a lot of the pitchers. But I think that everyone assumes that it's got to be Mac Jenkins' fault. It's got to be Mark Riggins' fault. It's got to be somebody's fault that's a coach at the big league level. Sooner or later, the onus falls on the individual. It falls on the players.
Here's Mercer, intentionally walked twice and then bounced into a fielder's choice. I mean, managers and coaches set the tenor of a club, yes. Right. Players run a team.
Right. The coaches put you in a right direction and give you as much information as possible. Then it's up to you to be able to execute according to the information that you gather from your coaches.
And players need to hold each other accountable too.
That is correct.
Not just the good, but the bad.
And if you're not able as a teammate to say you should have hustled on that ball, or you've got to throw more breaking balls, or you got to have a little bit more aggressiveness when you're in the field of play. If you're not able to talk amongst yourselves in the locker room like that, you're not going to get any better. And that's why you hear so many times about having 1, 2 veteran players that have been around and been through the wars a little bit. They may not be the best players on your team, But what they do is they set the tone because other players see them. They know they've been successful. There's a reason that you play in the big leagues for 10 years. And then they start to understand, okay, that's why I need to do that.
2 balls, 1 strike to Mercer. Runner at second. Slap to the right side. And you know, sometimes it's a demonstrative leader. Other times it's just by the way you play. Right. Different people lead in different way. You don't have to have 1 leader on a team. I mean, the Big Red Machine had 6 leaders.
Right. And it's not about the verbal conversations as much as it is sometimes just about the way you play the game. I mean, Scott Rowland was not a big talker, but yet he played the game in a certain way that really set a different tone for that club.
Tardy on that 96-mile-an-hour fastball, swing and a miss. That's out number 2, so 2 away. And here comes Nova.
Mercer knows he's getting a fastball, and he was trying to cheat a little bit to get out there and chase one up out of the strike zone.
So here's Nova, 3 strikeouts so far tonight. 2 swinging, 1 looking. I remember one night when the Reds lost the ball game when Scott Rowland was here, and a bunch of players went into the meal room, didn't come out to deal with the media, and Scott Rowland came out and said, "Gentlemen, we win like men and we lose like men. Let's act like men here." That's all it took. They'll hold the runner at third, a base hit by Nova. So he finally gets a base hit, a line shot to right, and he gets a round of applause by the Pirate fans here. So it's first and third, 2 away, back to the top of the order, and Josh Harrison.
You know, it's not when you're in the locker room and you're amongst the 25 guys that make up your roster. The conversation is, in order to get better, is not always about, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. Sometimes it's made in a joking way. How can you not get to third on that ball? You know, but what it does is it sends information to your teammate. Hey, you care about winning baseball and you care about guys getting better.
First and third, 2 away for Harrison. Swing and a miss. Josh tonight, 2 more doubles against the Reds. 2 for 3 and hit by a pitch. Bloop to the right side. Votto going over. Will he get there? He will, and that'll do it. Good pitch by Jumbo after the leadoff double and the single. It keeps him off the board. Reds still trail 4-1 going to the 8th. Waiting for Reds Live post game. Our crew back in Cincinnati. Jeff Picoro, Brian Giesenslaw, the guys that always keep things up to date. Pre-game, post-game. Kent Dreamweaver. Ron Millinor, who once in a while makes a cameo appearance on the air too. Rob Oberberg. Everybody that does such a great job. Day in, day out. At home or on the road. And they'll have the complete story when we wrap this one up. Speaking of being on the case tonight, just like he was the first week of August, Ivan Nova has pitched well against the Reds. He's 4-0, an ERA of under 3 since coming over from the Yankees. After 118 starts as a Yankee, he's been outstanding as a Pirate. This one hit hard to right, going back, looking up. It's going to be off the top of the 21-foot wall. Rounding first, going into second is Eugenio Suarez, and Reds have a leadoff double here in the 8th. He clanked that one off the top of the wall and right.
That ball did not miss getting out of here by much at all. Like it hit off the top of that wall. The big yellow line that goes across the top of that wall. He hit it way up there.
Boy, he showed some outstanding flashes of offensive brilliance, doesn't number 7?
Yes, he does.
Here's Nova to the stretch, runner on second, and here's Barnhart, 1 for 2, reach on a bunt hit last time up.
I think, you know, we've talked about, Marty and I have talked about this, when you see the improvements from Suarez, not just at the plate, because we knew that, or we expected him to hit after the way he started, but he was able to come back after some tough times offensively. I think the greatest improvement has been at third base.
Yep.
I think he has really turned the corner.
He reminds me so much of Edwin Encarnacion. It takes a while, and remember, Eddie struggled defensively and struggled offensively, and little by little it started to come together, and he's become one of the best power hitters in the game.
And I think part of that is handling the mental pressure that comes with changing a position, and all of a sudden you're missing balls that you know you should catch. Works on your head a little bit.
Barnhart loops it in the left. Tagging at second, on his way to third is Suarez, and he'll get there. Well, Suarez advances, a productive at bat by Barnhart. Good job. You don't get a sacrifice fly unless the runner scores, but that fly ball serves
Deep
as a
enough to
productive out.
To third base from second.
You don't always have to have a hit. A productive out keeps the line moving, and there's a runner at third. And Diaz's day is done. Tony Renda will come in and pinch hit.
Yeah, that's one of those at bats that it's just going to go down as a fly ball to left field as far as statistics go. It's an 0 for 1, but yet it's put a runner in scoring position where if Renda hits a fly ball that would be similar to that one, the Reds have a run on the board.
Nova to the stretch, runner off third, defense straight away in the infield and outfield. Renda. Second time this year Renda's can't come up from Louisville. He was with the Reds early in August. Made 5 starts and was in 16 different games. Showed right away that he could get a bunt down, he could move a runner over. Here comes Ray Searage to talk to his big right-hander.
Get a bunt down, move a runner over, and he showed us that he could run to first base with some speed too.
All in one play.
All in one play. There you go.
And a very versatile player as well. Down at AAA as well as here in the major league. So the sermon on the mound, so to speak, from Ray Searage. And it appears that there might have been a few words left there for Paul Nauert too. And twice tonight, after the final out of an inning, Nova left the mound and peered in at Nauert and had a few words to say, and Nauert just waved him on. So there's been a little testiness, but not enough to damage Nova's night so far. There's a big swing by Renda and a miss. 1 ball, 1 strike as he fouls it off.
You know, when Nova throws his fastball inside to right-handers, it's not as though it runs in on them running off the plate. The ball almost seems to sink straight down. And It's not a huge sink. It's not as though it sinks out of the strike zone. It just makes it that much more difficult to center up.
Good block by Cervelli. That saved a run.
You know, a good sinker that makes a hitter cognizant of that pitch over and over again makes your breaking ball look that much better. I mean, that breaking ball there is what we've seen pretty much the entire night from Nova, but the Reds have chased it because he's been pounding so much inside on the plate.
2 balls, 1 strike. Suarez off third. Hit short, hop to short. Suarez will hold. In fact, the hustling Renda almost picked the pocket of Mercer. Mercer took the short hop and then looked Suarez back to third, and all of a sudden he looked up and Renda was about 15 feet from the bag. He had a gun at the first. Here's number 49 hustling down the line.
You can see the ball get down on the bat, hit right at the label on Renda. You're right, he was hustling down the line, but that's one of the things that Mercer possesses is a great arm at shortstop, and it's quick too.
He uses it when he needs to. 2 away, back to the top of the order. Peraza for 3 ground balls, 1 in a double play and a ground ball to short, a ground ball to third. Still does seem funny to see number 49 on Renda's back after watching Rob Dibble wear that number.
I agree.
Renda's about, I don't know, they list him what, at 5'8", around there?
That's what they say.
Dibbs was a giant, huh?
There's no doubt about that.
And there you talk about players playing off each other. Myers, Dibble, Charlton, that bullpen played off each other, helped each other, taught each other, and they're still friends. 26 years later.
The nasty boys. Because when it got to the 7th, it got nasty.
Forget it. In the dirt, another nice block by Cervelli. Hey, you know, look at your tenure here. Talk about passing the baton. You know, the Jeff Shaws, the Danny Graves, the Jeff Brantleys. Go down the list. And when you were in San Francisco, you know, the shooter.
Rod Beck.
Rob Beck.
Mike Jackson the same.
Yep. And Jax came back for another stint. And still, you talk to people, list your top 5 best teammates. Anybody that played with Mike Jackson has Jax on that list.
Yeah, that's right. You look at a guy like Mike Jackson and a guy like Arthur Rhodes. One was right-handed, one was left-handed, but they created an intensity that was unmatched. Now that goes back to what you and I were talking about earlier about creating an atmosphere. Those 2 guys, if you backed off out of that bullpen, you were going to get an earful the next day when you headed out to the bullpen.
You're not playing for yourself. You're playing for your teammates. You're, you know, and that if you're held accountable by your teammates, that makes a club. It really does.
And those 2 guys did not take kindly to folks that were passive. They would eat you alive. You were either going to tighten up and get tough, or you were going to be gone.
Suarez off third after his double. Nova from the stretch, his 85th pitch of the night. Line shot. What a play by Mercer. He bounces up and saves a run.
That's ridiculous.
Jordy Mercer, a brilliant play on a rocket shot off the bat of Peraza. Robs the Reds of a run. That's a Gold Glove play.
State in Reds history. 1985, Pete Rose, the player manager, inserts himself into the lineup and collects hits 41-90 and 41-91, then tying Ty Cobb's record. And from what I remember, it was a late pitching change in which Pete Rose, the last minute, inserted himself into the lineup. And we all thought that then owner Marge Schott was going to lose her mind, George.
And a whole bunch of Reds fans too, huh? What a run that was. What a run. Yeah, and I've never seen anybody, here's Ross Hollendorf, who'll come in and pitch as we head to the bottom of the 8th inning. And you talk about 2 times. Number one, when Pete was going for the consecutive game hit streak and Gene Garber stopped him down in Atlanta, but then going for the all-time hit record. I mean, that went on for weeks, and every day Pete met with the media. No one ever handled the media better than Pete overall, but during those times, just remarkable. And everybody looked forward to him telling stories for a half hour before a game about, you know, and he said, look, I know I'm going to get it sooner or later, so why put pressure on myself? Amazing. Here's Ollendorf. He faces Sean Rodriguez, who came in for Bell. This is Rodriguez, first at bat of the night. The Reds have 8 right-handers and 3 left-handers in this expanded bullpen after the call-ups. The Princeton product, Ollendorf, with that big windup, ready to deliver. Here's the 1-2. Slap to the right side and out of play. Rodriguez, a valuable bench guy.
Well, not only is he valuable, the fact that he can play a lot of different positions, but he's got some pop off the bench. I mean, he's a threat to hit the ball out of the ballpark. We've seen it.
His walk-off home run against the Reds in August, one of only 3 walk-off wins that the Pirates have had this year. Two balls, 2 strikes. Down to third, a 2-hopper. Suarez has it, and Rodriguez is retired for the first out of the 8th inning. Every weekday morning, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp go head-to-head on the day's hottest sports topics. Undisputed with Skip and Shannon. Weekdays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, only on FS1. One away, and here's McCutchen. He delivered a base hit, 1 for 3, 1 for 4 rather. The base hit produced a run in the 6th, the 4th run that the Pirates have on the board. In this day and age of shortened mechanics, quick moves to first, Ollendorf, the last of a vanishing breed with that big windup, huh?
The old timer winding up.
Now, did you ever attempt to start your windup with the ball in the glove? Could you do that as opposed to in your hand?
Yeah, I always had it in my glove. Then once I started throwing the split, I had to put the split grip and then put it behind my back and then change it as I got in the glove. But that led to some issues as well. Because once I started throwing the split, the glove would move, and evidently I turned the glove sideways every time I would tip it. And I didn't know it until they started hitting the ball over the fence. And you realize, you better change something. But once I started pitching out of the bullpen, I stayed out of the stretch entirely. So there was not as much movement. I could turn my back a little. I could turn my back to the plate and keep the glove around my stomach, and that way I could change it without the hitter being able to see my glove move.
McCutchen on at first after the walk. Here's Polanco. 1 for 4 on the night. Big swing and a pop up behind second. Out goes Phillips, who's going to take charge. The center fielder Peraza will, and there's another example of if Billy Hamilton is there, he takes charge from the get-go. But no harm, no foul. Catch made. Second out of the inning.
Well, I think what happened after the ball in right center field when Schebler and Peraza ran together, somebody in the dugout said, look, you're the center fielder. If you can get it, you call everything. I don't care who it is. And that's what happens there.
That's someone in the dugout, Billy Hatcher.
But that's what the center fielder is supposed to do.
Yep.
Be loud, be vocal, be aggressive.
Here's Gong, double in the first, knocked in 2. Hey, the one thing we found very clearly, wherever you put him, Jose Peraza,
he can play.
He can play, and we're seeing he can hit too.
I think the thing that I noticed the most, George, after seeing him play for an extended period of time in this last call up, he has tremendous baseball intellect and instinct.
Instincts, right?
I mean, to be able to play shortstop, second base, he's played left, he's played center. And he does it at the big league level where you don't really, if you didn't know, you would think he was a center fielder all the time. You would think he was a shortstop all the time or a second baseman. That's a compliment to that kid, and he's not let it affect the way he swings the bat at all. As a matter of fact, I don't know that you can hit the ball any better than what he's doing.
2 balls, 1 strike to Gong. From the stretch is Ollendorf. You know, now, as you talked about earlier, whether it's a pitcher or a hitter, this game is a game of adjustments. You know, he's showing he can hit, and now you expect more breaking balls, more off-speed pitches. See if he can get him out of his comfort zone.
He's been able to handle the ball out over the plate, especially. And we see tonight, Ivan Nova, he's not throwing the ball out over the plate for Peraza. Everything is in, sinking in, breaking balls in the dirt. We saw a little bit of that when the Mets were in town. They were throwing him a lot of first pitch changeups, trying to take some of that aggressiveness away. And it's just part of the incremental adjustments. Maybe at bat to at bat, it may be day to day, and sometimes it's year to year. The better you do up here, the more they study you.
And boy, can they study today. That's in there for a strike.
Kidding.
Used to be just the eye test. Now it's video, numbers, and the like. So full count to Gong with 2 away, and the runner McCutchen down at first. He'll be off and scampering on the 3-2 delivery. There he goes. That's hit into left. Here comes Duval. Got it right on the button again by the Pirate third baseman, but Duval was there. So walk, no harm. Last roundup for the Reds. They trail it 4-1. In Pittsburgh, Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio has been brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices, all at Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Hey, don't miss a day of Reds baseball in one of Cincinnati's best events of any year, Oktoberfest Cincinnati. Plus the first 20,000 fans at Saturday night 6:10 game receive a Red Stein. Thanks to Moreline Lager House. For tickets, visit reds.com. Steins are something else, and if you can't get them, Jesse Jackson will be selling them at the tag sales the next Monday. All right, here's Nova. We go to the 9th, and here's Cozart, a big swing to left, but it's going to stay in the park. Polanco at the edge of the warning track will haul it in. For Cozart, he has the only marker for the Reds, an infield hit in the 6th. Knocked in a Tucker Barnhart with the only Reds run. The 1 for 4 is the night for Zach Cozart. Here's Votto, and Nova is in uncharted territory. Not many Pirate right-handers to throw a couple of complete games in a season, Cowboy.
Yeah, he threw a complete game against the Astros back on the 24th of August. He's 1 out away from doing it here tonight.
Man, 2 pitches, only 88 pitches for big number 46. Nova made his Pirates debut against the Reds, won 5-3 on the 5th of August. 7 innings pitched and 3 earned runs. He's been even better this time out. A guy who made his major league debut 6 years ago, has undergone Tommy John surgery. Bounced back from that. He's 1 out away from his 2nd complete game. Swing and a miss on the breaking ball.
Here's the number, George. Right over here. 89 pitches. You've got to be kidding me. That's pitch efficient, and it's also pitching to weak contact.
That's a liner into left. That's a base hit. Well, the Reds have a 2-out base hit here in the 9th. The Reds didn't get their first hit until the 5th. That was a base hit by Schebler. So Duvall is on. He thought he had a base hit back in the 5th. It was originally ruled an infield hit, then changed to an error by the official scorer. The first hit for the Reds was Schebler's hit. The first run for the Reds came in the 6th on the single by Barnhart, single by Gary Barron, the pinch hitter, and a single by Cozart. So here's Brandon Phillips tonight. Bounced out, bounced into a double play, and robbed of a hit on a great play by Gong at 3rd. Well, that extra run means a lot now, because with 1 swing of the bat, without that McCutchen RBI, we could be looking at a tie game if Phillips can get it done. There's a liner foul down the right field line. Phillips in his career, a couple of homers and 4 hits against Nova. That's now in 12 at bats. Nova to the stretch. Duvall off first. That's inside.
Look at the helmet of Brandon Phillips. Now, normally, Rick Stowe has his guys. They make sure they get all the helmets cleaned off. Brandon, don't touch my helmet.
It's a Craig Biggio special, right? 1 ball, 1 strike. Missing inside, 2-1. Night game tonight, night game tomorrow, night game Saturday, day game on Sunday. We'll be on the air with Reds Live at 6:30 both tomorrow night and Saturday. Down to 3rd. He'll go the long way, and that'll do it. So Gong had the big hit of the night. He gets the final out of the night, and Ivan Nova has resurrected his career in big-time fashion. He gets a hug from his former Yankee catcher, who was instrumental in talking the Pirates into getting him here, Francisco Cervelli. And boy, has he performed well. He's now 5-0 as a Pirate. He was dominant tonight, Cowboy.
Really was. He used that sinker on the inside part of the plate the entire time, but he was able to throw strikes with it. Then he would come in off the plate and have the Reds chasing that breaking ball in the dirt.
Back with more from PNC Park in Pittsburgh after these messages. The Pirates have won game 1 of the series 4-1.